I wanted to do now is just quickly go through some of the challenges which we've had in the UK and in France. So the first one was from Infineon office in Bristol in the UK. And their challenge was from Tim Blackmore, talking about better use of simulation cycles. And random generation covers a lot of the same ground over and over and over again. So ARM talk about this a lot. They have huge simulation farms, and they're concerned now that all they're doing is running the same things over and over again. And what's a better way of actually using all those simulation cycles and measuring the quality of those simulation cycles? And there are, I know some of the EDA vendors will respond to that today as well. NVIDIA talked about performance verification. This is just one challenge from each of the people who presented through. So NVIDIA recognized that there's been some good advances in verification, OVM, UVM now, everyone's moving to UVM, but performance verification has been mainly left to individuals and teams who try to find their own solution, but there's no industry solution. Often there's not even a company solution. So you go to a different project in the same company, you'll see a different way of doing performance verification. So they were concerned at the moment, although functional verification is being standardized, performance verification isn't. This is from Broadcom, Jeff Bennett of Broadcom, where his main concept was that a lot of work has gone into IP verification, where we now have constrained random, formal, functional driven, coverage driven, but chips are now really the problem, and that there's not been as much innovation in chip level verification as there's been in IP level verification, and these verification resources are overstretched. So how to understand where a person adds value. And new flows being required now. I think a lot of digital verification engineers now see a lot more AMS in their chips and a lot more power. And a lot of this stuff can only be done at SoC level rather than, it can't be done down at block level anymore. So the SoCs have become a lot harder to verify. Wolfson was on traceability, and I think Wolfgang talked about this as well. Requirements traceability. How do you know that your requirements have been properly mapped and properly verified? How can you track them through the verification process? And I know Harry talked about the standard DO54, I can't remember, 254. But I know a lot of people in automotive work to ISO 26262, which has a similar requirement where you must be able to demonstrate that the safety requirements have been properly verified. Dialogue, which I'm not sure if Dialogue are here today, but they presented again in the UK on their challenges. And again, this has been, I think, mentioned again today, the functional integration of analog and digital. Again, there's a paradigm shift. This was a digital guy speaking, so he mentioned ad hoc analog techniques, so you can see which camp he's coming from. But I think he felt that he needs to try and apply more of his digital techniques to the analog world. And I know there are creeping into UVM, for example, some checkers where you can actually do analog checks. And again, that will be mentioned today. Extending to mixed signal design. Bug avoidance. So you're here. This was from ARM. We did some work with ARM, and we came up with this concept called AHA, which Jasper will talk about later, where you try and split your work between bug avoidance, bug hunting, bug analysis, and what they found is that there's little work that goes on in bug avoidance, and the more you can do with designers to try and help them not put the bugs in the first place will make it much, much easier to verify. So They talked about bug avoidance, and I know Jasper will be mentioning that there as well, and some of the work that you can do informal to help the designer avoid putting bug into their design. So, ST, yesterday we were talking about verification management. Again, slightly similar to requirements traceability, which Wolfgang talked about and Wolfson talked about. This is just how to manage huge quantities of verification data coming from lots of different domains as well now. So it's not just code coverage, you have to combine that with functional coverage, you have to combine that with formal verification, test pass and test failing, bug rates, pass rates, is how he said also, you know, on the challenger you have to look where the passes are as well as where the fails are. So ST is struggling to cope with that huge amount of verification data. For ST Ericsson, they find that their chips are just more and more complicated, more and more protocols going into the chips. So we do a lot of work with ST and ST Ericsson, and there just seems to be an increasing number of interfaces on the SoCs. You know, 1 USB, 2 USB, 3 USBs on there. Couple of Ethernet interfaces. It just seems to be a huge number of interfaces going, and the complexity seems to go up. This is Thomas Goost of ST Ericsson said that he has to work with outside companies now, and outside companies for VIP and sometimes for resources as well, because they haven't got all that expertise in-house. They haven't got within a particular verification team a USB expert, an Ethernet expert, PCIe expert, a formal reference expert. So he was struggling with all the new technologies that were coming in. And finally, Texas Instruments yesterday, we're talking more about hardware software code verification and how at an SoC level you can actually do the verification of the hardware and the software together. I think a lot of semiconductor companies have noticed what they're doing is now they have to deliver software. And you don't normally get paid for the software either. You just have to, as part of your silicon now, your product includes software, which you don't get paid for, and somehow you have to make sure it works. And the budgets are obviously going to be very, very small for that because of the fact that it's you have to give it away to sell your hardware. Okay, so they're the companies that have been presented over the past 2 days as we travel Europe. On the website, you'll see all the challenges together. There must be about 30 of them. So, but what I've captured there is just one from each company to give you a sample of what UK and France is as well. Okay, so I'm now going to hand over to, I think we're bang on time. We're going to hand over to Yannick Bergen. Again, a big thank you to Yannick, who's travelled across the Atlantic to be here. And he's also been in the UK and France with us. I don't know much sleep Yannick's had or what time zone Yannick's on, but thank you for coming.